One book, one extraordinary life. 48 chapters of saints, science, and the search for God.
I'm Kai.
And I'm Maya.
And this is our take on Autobiography of a Yogi, chapter by chapter.
A young man stands alone in a mountain cave. The night is bright with moonlight and stars. And then a voice calls his name from the darkness.
Chapter 33, Babaji, the Yogi-Christ of India. And I mean, this is it. This is the moment the whole book has been building toward. Not a miracle that proves something, a presence that explains everything.
So we're at Raniket, high in the Himalayas. Lahiri Mahasaya is working as a government accountant. It's 1861. His life looks ordinary from the outside. Files, duties, the daily routines of a civil servant. But a telegram arrives one morning. He's being transferred up into the mountains. And Lahiri knows what this means. There's someone he's supposed to meet up there.
He makes the 500-mile journey on horseback through the Himalayas, 30 days of travel through these forbidding hills. And one afternoon, Lahiri is hiking on Drongri Mountain when he hears a voice calling his name, a distant voice, a voice that pulls at something ancient in him. And when he looks up, there's a young man standing on a ledge, copper-colored hair, perpetually youthful, extending his hand in welcome.
This is Babaji, the deathless guru. No birth record, no death date. He looks like he's maybe 25 years old, and according to the book, he's been that age for, well, centuries. The Mahavatar, the great avatar, the one who revived Kriya Yoga in this age, gave it to Lahiri Mahasaya, and through Lahiri, it spread to Sri Yukteswar and then to Yogananda. This entire lineage traces back to this moment, to this cave, to this young man who doesn't age.
And the yogi greets him. He says, "Lahiri, you have come." Not surprised, not welcoming him into some unknown place, calling him by name like they've known each other for lifetimes. Because you know what? I think they have. There's this quality that runs through the whole chapter. Babaji is outside of time. To him, all moments are present. He knows Lahiri before Lahiri knows him. He knows what Lahiri will become before Lahiri becomes it.
And here's what hits me about this chapter. The book says, whenever anyone utters with reference the name of Babaji, that devotee attracts an instant spiritual blessing. Just hearing the name. There's transmission in the name itself. This isn't metaphorical. This isn't inspirational language. The teaching is that consciousness can be encoded in sound, in a name, in presence. And Babaji is so unified with that consciousness that speaking his name is like touching a wire that carries infinite current.
So Lahiri enters the cave. It's small, simple, just blankets and a few begging bowls. No luxury, no theatrics. And Babaji shows him a folded blanket in the corner and asks, "Lahiri, do you remember that seat?" And Lahiri is completely confused. He says, "Sir, I must leave soon. I have business at the office." He's still thinking like a bureaucrat, right? He's still holding one foot in the world.
And that's when Babaji says something in English. In English. In the middle of the Himalayas in 1861, this forest ascetic speaks in English. The office was brought for you, and not you for the office. The telegram, the transfer. Babaji arranged it. Not through magic, through the simple fact that when consciousness is unified with the will of God, all minds become transmitting stations. Babaji's mind touched his superior officer's mind, and the decision was already made.
He asks what it means, and Babaji explains, "I refer to the telegram that summoned you to these isolated parts. It was I who silently suggested to the mind of your superior officer that you be transferred to Raniket. When one feels his unity with mankind, all minds become transmitting stations through which he can work at will." So here's the thing, right? This isn't Babaji overriding free will. It's Babaji operating from such a deep unity with reality that there's no separation between his will and what naturally unfolds.
And then Babaji does something extraordinary. He touches Lahiri on the forehead, and in that touch, something shifts. Lahiri's consciousness opens. He sees his own past lives. He remembers moments from previous incarnations. He says, "I remember. I see my previous births vividly in my mind. Here in this cave, I spent many years of my last incarnation." The guru's touch releases a kind of knowing that's been locked away. Not intellectual knowing, cellular memory, soul memory.
Lahiri says, "Where has one ever heard of such deathless love?" He's overwhelmed. Here's his guru, the Mahavatar, who's been waiting across lifetimes, who arranged his entire life to bring him to this moment, who touches him and unlocks the truth of who he really is. And Lahiri understands. He's not meeting Babaji for the first time. He's remembering him. He's coming home.
But then, and I love this, Babaji plays a kind of cosmic joke. He gestures and says, "Fear not, Ram Gopal. You are blessed to be a witness at the scene of this immortal promise." And suddenly the cave transforms. The whole space begins to glow. A shimmering, incandescent light fills the air. It's not candlelight. It's not a material flame. It's consciousness itself becoming visible. And the cave itself begins to reveal something deeper. The stone walls become transparent, and through them, a palace appears.
A golden palace, out of nowhere, studded with jewels, surrounded by gardens, saints in radiant robes standing at jeweled gates, the air thick with the scent of roses and incense. Lahiri walks through it in complete awe, and he realizes all of this is real, not imagined, not a vision. Babaji is literally materializing matter through the power of his unified consciousness. The palace stands solid. He can touch it. The jewels are real. The gardens are real.
Here's the teaching, and Babaji makes it explicit. He says, the whole cosmos is a materialized thought of the Creator. This heavy, earthly clod floating in space is a dream of God. He made all things out of his consciousness, even as man in his dream consciousness reproduces and vivifies a creation with its creatures. The universe is not dead matter. It's consciousness in the form of matter, and someone who's unified with that consciousness can reshape matter the way you reshape a dream.
Babaji explains, God first created the earth as an idea. Then he quickened it. Energy atoms came into being. He coordinated the atoms into this solid sphere. All its molecules are held together by the will of God. When he withdraws his will, the earth again will disintegrate into energy. Energy will dissolve into consciousness. The earth idea will disappear from objectivity.
So matter is just slowed down consciousness, and Babaji can speed it up or slow it down. He can create and dematerialize at will because he's not separate from the creative force. And here's what gets me. Lahiri is standing in this palace, watching this miracle unfold, and he's asking all the right questions. He asks, "Brother, the beauty of this structure surpasses the bounds of human imagination. Please tell me the mystery of its origin." And Babaji's answer is so matter-of-fact. He says, there is nothing inexplicable about this materialization. Being one with the infinite, all-accomplishing will, Babaji can summon the elemental atoms to combine and manifest themselves in any form. This golden palace, instantaneously created, is real, even as this earth is real. I am holding its atoms together by the power of my will, even as God created this earth and is maintaining it intact.
And then Babaji adds, when this structure has served its purpose, Babaji will dematerialize it. So the palace isn't permanent. It's a teaching, a demonstration. Once Lahiri understands what's possible, once his consciousness has been expanded through witnessing this impossibility, the palace will dissolve. The form serves the teaching. Once the teaching lands, the form is no longer needed.
So they walk through the palace together. Babaji initiates him into Kriya Yoga. Lahiri receives the sacred technique right there, transmitted directly from the Mahavatar. And then comes this beautiful moment. A homa, a sacrificial fire, appears. Lahiri receives initiation into Kriya Yoga in the presence of this sacred flame. And as dawn approaches, Babaji tells him, "Arise, Lahiri. Receive your initiation into the kingdom of God through Kriya Yoga. All your earthly thirsts are about to be quenched forever."
And when Lahiri opens his eyes, the palace is gone. The jewels have vanished. The gardens have dissolved. All that remains is the bare ground where the palace stood, and Babaji sitting in meditation, completely still. Lahiri is sitting there with the deathless master, and he doesn't know what to expect next. The night before was impossible, and now the impossible has become memory. The teaching has been transmitted. The initiation is complete. But here's where the chapter takes a turn that's even more profound, because Yogananda tells us the story through Ram Gopal, one of Lahiri Mahasaya's disciples. And Ram Gopal sheds something extraordinary. He was meditating at the Dasasameg Ghat one night, a sacred bathing place on the Ganges. Lahiri appeared to him in a vision and gave him a teaching about immortality. And Ram Gopal realized in that moment that the gurus are not bound by the laws of death. They can appear in multiple places at the same time.
Their consciousness moves freely across space and time.
And then Ram Gopal shares another incident. He says, "One midnight, I was meditating in a group of disciples when the master made a surprising request. He said, 'Ram Gopal, go at once to the Dasa Samag bathing cut.' I reached the secluded spot. The night was bright with moonlight and glittering stars. After I had sat in patient silence for a while, my attention was drawn to a huge stone slab near my feet. It rose gradually, revealing an underground cave.
And out of that cave rises Mataji, a woman saint, a being who's been in deep meditation in that cave for lifetimes. She levitates out of the underground chamber, surrounded by a soft halo. She's glowing, and she speaks to Ram Gopal. She says, 'I am Mataji, the sister of Babaji. I have asked him to come to my cave tonight to discuss a matter of great importance.' And Ram Gopal realizes he's witnessing something that transcends the laws of physics as we understand them. Consciousness is moving freely. Saints are appearing and disappearing at will. And there's this whole narrative arc where Lahiri is being tested. He's asked to go to a secluded bathing place. He's met by a guide. They walk through the forest in darkness. Tigers are prowling. The guide says, 'Come, brother, the master awaits you.' And as they walk, Lahiri hears the
And when Lahiri arrives, Babaji greets him with complete affection. 'Lahiri, you have come. Rest here in this cave. It was I who called you.' And then Babaji does something that's heartbreaking. He tells Lahiri that he's been waiting for him across decades. He says, 'For more than 3 decades I have waited for you to return to me. You slipped away and vanished until the tumultuous waves of the life beyond death. The magic wand of your karma touched you and you were gone. Though you lost sight of me, never did I lose sight of you. I pursued you over the luminescent astral sea where the glorious angels sail.'"
So there's this idea that runs through the whole chapter. The guru-disciple relationship is eternal. It transcends physical death. It transcends time. Babaji has been waiting for Lahiri across multiple lifetimes. And when Lahiri arrives at this cave in the Himalayas, it's not a coincidence. It's the inevitable completion of a relationship that began before this world. The guru knows the disciple, recognizes him, calls him home.
And here's where it gets mythic. Babaji explains the deeper teaching. He says, "You are my guru, Babaji, who has belonged to me always. Scenes of the past arise vividly in my mind. Here in this cave, I spent many years of my last incarnation. As ineffable recollections overwhelmed me, I tearfully embraced my master's feet. For more than 3 decades, I have waited for you to return to me."
And then Babaji offers him food and drink. Not out of hunger. Babaji doesn't eat. He's beyond the need for food. But out of compassion, out of the desire to make Lahiri comfortable, to bridge the gap between the infinite and the finite. Because that's what the guru does. The guru meets the disciple where the disciple is. The guru offers symbols, rituals, foods, forms, all the material things the disciple's mind can understand, while transmitting something that has nothing to do with the material at all.
And then comes this phrase that I keep coming back to. Babaji says to Lahiri, "You need purification. Drink the oil in this bowl and lie down by the river. The oil will warm your body. And as you lie there, something will happen. Something will shift. The ice of the Himalayan night will wrap around you, but your heart will be warm. Your fear will vanish, and in that darkness, you will understand something about who you are that you've been forgetting your whole life."
So Lahiri drinks the oil. The Kagash River is freezing. He lies down on the rocky bank, and as the cold wraps around him, he feels an inner warmth spreading through his body, a radiation from the center of his being, and he realizes something profound. The guru's grace isn't separate from his own consciousness. It's not something being given to him from outside. It's his own deepest self awakening. The guru is a mirror. The guru reflects back to him his own infinite nature.
And here's what the chapter is really teaching. There's a figure in human history who appears outside of time, who bears no marks of age, who walks the Himalayas with a small group of disciples, who can materialize palaces and dematerialize them, who appears to different people in different forms, who was present when Lahiri Mahasaya needed him, and is presumably present now, in some form, for humanity as a whole.
Because the book tells us something crucial. It says, an avatar lives in the omnipresent spirit. For him, there is no distance inverse to the square. Only one reason, therefore, can motivate Babaji in maintaining his physical form from century to century: the desire to furnish humanity with a concrete example of its own possibilities. Where man never vouchsafed a glimpse of divinity in the flesh, he would remain oppressed by the heavy magic delusion that he cannot transcend his mortality.
So, Babaji's entire purpose for remaining in a physical body is to demonstrate what's possible, to prove to humanity that the laws we think bind us, aging, death, the need for food, the inability to reshape matter, these laws apply to the unconscious mind, not to consciousness itself. When consciousness wakes up and realizes its own nature, it becomes free.
And there's this connection to Christ that the chapter makes explicit. Yogananda says, Jesus knew from the beginning the sequence of his life. He passed through each event not for himself, not from any karmic compulsion, but solely for the upliftment of reflective human beings. His 4 reporter disciples, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, recorded the ineffable drama for the benefit of later generations. And Babaji is the same. He's not living for himself. He's living as a demonstration, a teaching made flesh.
The chapter quotes Jesus. It says, "Father, I knew that thou hearest me always, but because of the people who stand by, I said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me." And the point is clear. Christ spoke audibly, ate food, appeared in a body that could be touched and seen, not because he needed to, but because the people around him needed witnesses. They needed to see that divinity can take human form. And Babaji does the same.
So the teaching at the heart of this chapter is this. There are beings on this earth who have woken up, who have unified their consciousness with cosmic consciousness, who are not bound by the laws that bind the unconscious. And one of them is Babaji, the Yogi-Christ of India, the Mahavatar, the Guru of Gurus, the origin of the Kriya lineage.
And here's what I keep thinking about. The chapter says Babaji has arranged for people to witness him. He's demonstrated his power so that seekers will understand. But he also maintains silence about his past. He doesn't openly appear in every century. He works in obscurity. The book says, Babaji is well aware of the trend of modern times, especially of the influence and complexities of Western civilization, and realizes the necessity of spreading the self-liberations of yoga equally in the West and in the East.
So Babaji is simultaneously eternal and contemporary. He's a figure from myth who walked the earth in 1861. He appears to disciples across centuries. He's organizing the spread of Kriya Yoga to the West through Yogananda. He's deathless, but also practical, mythic, but also engaged with the real world and its needs.
You know what? I think the next chapter is going to shift everything again. Because if Babaji can materialize a palace, if he can appear in multiple forms, if he's deathless and ageless, then what else is possible? What else has he done? What miracles have we not even heard about yet?
Right. I mean, we're getting closer to the end of the book now. We're in the 3rd act. The teaching has been transmitted. Kriya Yoga has been revived. Lahiri has been initiated. And now Yogananda is going to go out into the world and share this teaching with the West. But before he does, there's going to be more. There's going to be a materialized palace. There's going to be initiations and teachings that almost seem too impossible to believe.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole point. By the time we get to the final chapters, we've been so immersed in the story of what's possible that we can actually receive teachings that would have shattered our minds if they'd come earlier. The book has been slowly expanding our sense of what reality is, and Babaji is the culmination of that teaching. He's the living proof.
See you next time.
See you next time.